Welcome to Social Media Bootcamp for nonprofits. We've been really excited about being involved with this. I personally am very passionate about what nonprofits can do with social media. So this is a great opportunity for us to share that. In your packets, you'll notice that we have step-by-step instructions on how to properly set up a Facebook account. Most of you probably already have one, but we want to go through and make sure it was set up correctly. So we'll go step-by-step through that. After we do a kind of overview of what are some of the major social media platforms, how do you utilize them, what's the best way for your particular social media or your particular nonprofit to make the most of those. And then we'll open it up for questions towards the end. We can sit down with you, look at your Facebook pages, any other social media pages, and give you some tips and pointers on how to maximize it and make it a little bit more effective. Okay? So who is Synergy? We are a woman-owned business that's been around since 1994. Jennifer Martin founded it and is still the president. We have seen the ebbs and tides of all the different aspects of internet marketing and web design, web development. At our core is web development. So one of the things you'll hear me, good morning, talk about is we really firmly believe that you need to have your website as the center of all your online marketing. So social media is great. It's a good way to extend that out, but you really want to make sure that your website is your core and is up to date and has all the right information for people to figure out what you do, who are you trying to target, who are your donors, do you take volunteers, all that kind of good information. So why is your online brand important? In this day and age, there is no organization, nonprofit or profit, that can afford not to be on social media. This is where everyone is going to get their information these days. Google it has become a verb. It is something that people do. Even my 8-year-old niece talks about it. She's like, well, let's just Google it, boo-boo. What did we do before Google, right? You must have a great website. This is the core, again, of any good online marketing strategy, is having a really dynamic website that has lots of visuals, lots of good information, and most importantly, it's very clear on how you can get people involved in your organization. So one of the things when you're looking at your web design, your social media strategies, any of those kinds of things, the first thing you want to be very, very clear on is who are you targeting? Are you targeting donors? Are you targeting the community at large? Are you targeting the people who will utilize your services? You may be targeting all of them, but you want to be very clear and precise about who you are trying to target with your social media. It'll make it much easier for you to figure out what kinds of updates and where you want to put them, and more importantly, how you structure your website to bring people to the right place to get that information. Again, this is where people are going for information on your mission. This is where they're deciding, do they want to donate to you? Do they want to be a part of your organization? So this is your storefront online. This is your way of representing who you are online. And so it's very important to make sure that it's crisp and clean and people understand it very quickly. So in the next over the next half an hour or so, we're going to go through 6 of the major platforms that are out there. There are hundreds. So you can get wrapped up in this for days and days, but we're going to go through Google+, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Those are kind of the biggest ones out there, and we'll talk about what are the pros and cons, what are some of the things about those social media platforms that you want to take advantage of, or which ones do you want to stay away from because they may not necessarily be the best for your organization. Any questions so far? So one thing about this class is we want to make sure that it's interactive. If you have a question, please ask, because we'll go through a lot, and I don't want people to feel like, wait a minute, back in slide 4, I got lost. So definitely ask questions. All right, Facebook. This is the one we're going to be hearing about the most today. It's known as the king of social media, thanks to a couple of students back in Boston. They created this thing as a way for their friends to keep in touch. That's why you friend people on Facebook. It's the most critical platform to have. Everybody's on Facebook. There are people in the middle of Africa on smartphones who have Facebook accounts. It is the most prominent social media platform there is, bar none. So this is the one, if you can only give up the time to do one social media platform well, this is the one I would recommend, because this is where you're going to get the most impact. 1.26 billion users. There's 757 million daily users on it that are being active and posting and looking at people's information. And it's ideal for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a business, an organization, individual, anybody who's trying to get their information out to the world, this is the place to do it. And we'll go into a lot more detail on that. The next biggest, or the next one that we're going to cover is Google+. How many people have a Google+ account?
I think I do.
Right, I've got one. So Google Plus is important because of something called SEO, search engine optimization. So when you go in and you Google something, what happens is Google has a series of algorithms that it runs, and it determines how it's going to serve up links and websites based on that algorithm. That's called SEO. The reason Google Plus is important to that is because Google loves Google. The more you do on Google, the more Google is going to give you credit and help you raise yourself up in those ranks of search results. So when you set up a Google Plus account for yourself, you can establish yourself as a Google author on your website. You can then set up a Google Plus account for your organization. It's called Google Local or Google Places. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and it's really important that that gets set up. The nice thing about Google Plus is, unlike Facebook that requires constant feeding and constantly putting updates into place, this one you can do a little less often. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, post a picture, post something, and Google will recognize that and reward you for it. Otherwise, it's anybody who is looking for you online. This is how they're also going to find it. It's almost as critical as Facebook, but it's more on kind of the underside, or that search engine optimization, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. What's interesting about Google Plus is, we'll talk about Pinterest a little bit later. They both came out and started getting really prominent around the same time. When they first came out, Google Plus was predominantly men. It was almost 90% men that were on it. And the reason they think is because in Google Plus, you compartmentalize people into circles. I have circles of acquaintances. I have work friends. I have golf buddies. I have this, that, and the other thing. And that kind of thing was very appealing to men. It's less so now. Now it's about 70% men. But again, this is why you want to have a Google Plus account, is to make sure that you're not leaving out part of your target audience, and especially if you have some nonprofit that's targeted towards men, Google Plus is mission critical. Any questions on Google Plus? All right. LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn account? Nice. Wonderful. All right. How many of you have a LinkedIn account for your nonprofit organization? Okay. That's the important piece. So LinkedIn is like Facebook for your professional life. This is where you contact and connect with people that you've worked with on projects, that you've known throughout your career. The updates that people put up are normally based on their profession. What are they working on? What are the things that are interesting about their job? The other thing that's interesting about LinkedIn is that they anticipate within 5 years you will no longer have a resume. This is how you will find a job. This is how people will determine whether or not they want to hire you. What's nice about LinkedIn, it has recommendations that an employer can look at without ever having to talk to you. There's endorsements, but there may not be as much value to the endorsements, but the recommendations are really important. And the detail that you can go into on what are you working on day to day? What are the things that are important to you as a professional, all get listed here. Now, for your organization, the reason this is important, this is where big donors are going to look to find out more about your organization. Who is involved? How active are they? What is their history? Why do they have any credibility in this space? So if you have people in your organization who are kind of your spokespeople, or are out in the community as kind of the figureheads for your organization, They must be on LinkedIn. And you want to create a LinkedIn account for your nonprofit and make sure everyone who works for your company or donates their time to your nonprofit links themselves to this. They can just put, I'm a volunteer, and this is how long. It's just like another addition to their resume. Again, the reason being is people want to see what's going on with your organization, not just what you're telling them, but what else can they find? What else can they realize about the people that are being involved? And why should I trust them? Why should I give my time and my effort and my dollars to you? This is where they're going to look for it. So my recommendation is to definitely set this up. Again, like Google+, this doesn't require the same kind of upkeep that you're looking at with something like Twitter or Facebook. So it's good to set it up, make sure that everybody's linked in, and then once a month, post something, especially as you're coming up against May 6th for Give Grande New Mexico. You want to make sure that you're putting things up there, that you are involved, and this is how people can support you in that. YouTube, my niece's first personal favorite. YouTube is known as the place to broadcast yourself. I'm sure all of you have seen YouTube videos in some way, in shape, or form. Video is the most engaging form of update that you can put on any social media platform right now. You may have noticed that things on your personal Facebook timelines have changed, where now there's a lot of videos and they immediately start. You don't even have to press the start button. There's also something called Vine, which has become very popular. There's 6-second videos. What could you possibly get across in 6 seconds? You'd be surprised. And all of this is what social media and kind of online marketing as a whole are moving towards. Is you need to be very succinct about who you're talking to, what you're trying to communicate to them, and be able to do it in 6 seconds, which seems very, very difficult, but it's possible. YouTube, the other thing that's nice about YouTube is this is not professional videos. These are things that you can shoot with your smartphone. If you have activities, events, community participation, you want to capture those moments and get them up on YouTube. It's really important to give people a sense of what's happening day to day, not just in what is going on Facebook updates, but what's really happening when you're going out and engaging the community and the people that you're working with. All those things are really critical. And this is a great platform to show that. And the nice thing is, if you don't like the video, you can always just take it down. So there's 1 billion users. There's 4 billion YouTube videos viewed every day. That's a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs. And again, it's ideal for anyone. There is some aspect of your nonprofit or what you're trying to achieve that can be captured in video. And we highly recommend that you take that time and do that. Any questions on YouTube? All right. We're cruising right along. All right, I mentioned Pinterest a little bit earlier. So how many of you have Pinterest accounts? Okay. So Pinterest is basically an online extension of the dream board concept that came out a couple of years ago. And this was where you would take pictures of what you wanted your ideal house or your ideal garden to look like. And it was supposed to inspire you to figure out how to achieve those goals. Now, Pinterest is just a virtual version of this. And you can share thousands of pictures. There are pictures of everything there, and what you do is you pin them to boards. So as a nonprofit, you can create multiple boards that say, here's some of the people that have participated. Here's our volunteers board. Here's our activities board. Here's pictures from the events that we've participated in or the fundraising that we've been doing. You can get really creative with this. Again, images and video are critical to all of your social media platforms. The other thing that Pinterest allows you to do is to embed a link into that picture so you can, again, drive people back to your website, wherever you want them to go. So it's just, again, another fishing pole to bring people from the internet where they're doing their research and bring them into your website so that you can get them interested and get them to donate, get them to give their time. It's 80% women at this point. which again, depending on the demographic of your target audience, that might be important. And it's especially good if your nonprofit is image heavy. So if you're into the arts or animals, all those kinds of things, kids are a big one. The thing with kids is you got to be careful that you protect them, right? There's a lot of challenging aspects to social media. One of those is protecting the people that you're promoting. So we tend to be really cautious with kids. But, you know, again, there's nothing better than a really cute kid to capture your attention and get you to read whatever it is that's associated with that picture. All right.
I have a question on that whole thread.
Yeah.
We're a people organization. I'm with the Cancer Foundation for New Mexico, and we're helping patients and families with who are struggling with cancer. We have used some folks in photographs in our print materials,
Okay.
and we try to get a release
Right.
by each of them. Is that something that we should do for any of these platforms you're speaking of?
It's probably a good idea considering what you're doing. You don't legally have to. So the way Pinterest works, and pretty much all social media, the owner of the picture, the person who designates whether or not you can use it, is the person on this side of the camera, not that side of the camera. It's kind of different than it has been in the past, where whoever the image was the person who had the rights to do that. This is why, you know, celebrities get in trouble because they get videotaped doing something. They can't stop it because it's this person who owns that videotape, right? So legally, you can get away with taking pictures and using people's images without getting their written consent. I would say you definitely want to ask and at least verbally get their consent. And as far as kind of like testimonials go, the Attorney General of New Mexico has designated or said that if you use the person's last name, or the first name and the last initial, you're fine. You don't actually have to get anything written. You cannot use last names, which we don't recommend because you want to protect those people. And the other thing that's specific is if there is something so unique about the story that you're telling about that person that it's easy to figure out who they are, don't do it. I worked for a podiatry firm before I did this, and one of our patients was the victim of the gentleman that you may have heard of in the news who attacked his girlfriend's feet. We couldn't talk about her particular story, even though it was really dynamic, because it was so specific and people knew who she was, and we didn't want to, take advantage of that. So if you have something that specific, my recommendation is don't use it. And pretty much with all social media, I tend to refer to the Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder. If there's any part of you that's saying maybe I shouldn't do this, then don't do it, because you're better off being cautious than getting yourself into hot water. Because you've seen what can happen to nonprofits like the Komen Foundation. It can blow up in your face if you don't do this correctly.
And actually, along those lines, I recently heard of someone having put together a protocol or policy that outlines for the employer
Yes.
if someone is using social media to protect that employee.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of a template for that?
I do. Yeah.
Wonderful. Would you make that available?
Absolutely, yeah. So I am on a nonprofit board, and we did a social media policy for all of our board members because of exactly this reason. It's a somewhat controversial topic, so we wanted to make sure that people were very clear on, here's how you can express your personal opinions without affecting the organization, and vice versa. So that's actually a really good point. One of the things that we'll talk about in more detail with Facebook, but it pretty much applies to every single one of the social media platforms. You must have an individual account. So you have to have a LinkedIn account for you personally, or a Gmail account, a Google Plus account for you as an individual, before you can set anything up for an organization. So once you do that, you can invite other people to be admins. We always recommend that you have at least 2 admins for any nonprofit, any organization for that matter, because if one person leaves, you don't have the problem of they can lock you out of your Facebook account or your Google Plus account. You always want to make sure 2 people have access at all times. The other thing to be careful of is if you're the individual who has set up that account, make sure you have your privacy settings on Facebook set to that no one can see anything about you. Because once you've kind of gotten that integration between you're part of that organization, you really don't want people looking into your personal life. You know, I tend to post things like my niece and I are going to, you know, such and such event this weekend. I don't want everyone who has anything to do with Synergy or the nonprofit that I'm a part of to see that. That's my personal life. So you really want to make sure you keep those things separate. Unfortunately, they do force you to have an individual account to set anything up for an organization. So just make sure you're really clear on that. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out to us, or there's a couple different websites where you can find information on how to keep your privacy separate. Everybody's heard of it. How many of you use Twitter for your? Okay, good. Twitter is challenging because you only have 140 characters, tweets, not twits. That's the number one way to give away that you actually don't know much about social media is call it a twit. That's my stepdad right there. It requires the most recency, or the most frequency to have any kind of impact. For those of you who have Twitter accounts, you know you are getting bombarded constantly. There are just streams and streams and streams of people. There's 1 billion users. So you're competing in that space because there really isn't a way to carve it down and say these are only the people that I want to see, other than take people out of your follows. Our recommendation is if you're doing Twitter, you should be posting 8 to 10 times a day if you're going to get any impact out of it. It's really challenging to use this as a mechanism because there's just so many things out there. Now, where this is different and where there's an exception to this is if you are doing something that's extremely newsworthy, you know, and you've got press releases and you're constantly like doing legislation. If you want to be getting that news out there, Twitter is perfect. That's exactly where you want to be, because you take your press release, you take one sentence, that's your 140 characters, and just blast it out all day. And again, post that entire press release on your homepage or on your website somewhere, and draw people in from Twitter to read the whole press release.
So you can put links?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't use it.
No, yeah, it does shorten links. You can do.
Okay.
And we definitely recommend that because that's your 140 characters right there. But it'll shorten it for you. It's pretty simple. It's ideal for public figures. So again, if you have someone who is a spokesperson or who is kind of a figurehead for your organization that you want to promote as an individual, this is another great place for them to be. There's a lot of celebrities and politicians who use this. So if that's your kind of arena, Twitter's perfect. Any questions? All right. So we're going to get more into detail on Facebook. We're going to take a quick break so we can switch cards. I know it's a little bit early, but
Can
faster.
I ask you a question
Of
before
course.
we move to Facebook?
Yeah.
It wasn't one of the social media outlets that you went over, but if you could just briefly talk about Instagram, just 'cause
Absolutely.
I use Instagram, so I'm just wondering what.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So there's a couple we didn't cover. I did mention Vine, which is 6-second videos. Instagram and Tumblr. If you are targeting teens with your nonprofit, you must be on those two. Why? Because they don't want to be on Facebook because that's where their parents are. Pretty simple. Instagram and Tumblr. Tumblr is essentially a visual blog. You take a lot of pictures and you write a short blog about, whatever it is in the picture. Kids love it because it's short, sweet, and they can invite their friends to see it. And again, not invite their parents to see it. Instagram is very similar. It's purely visual. It's taking pictures and putting filters on them so they look like the Polaroids of me when I was a kid, right? They're old-fashioned looking pictures. I think it's funny because there's actually some pictures I've taken of my niece about the same age as those Polaroids, and I'm like, look, you look just like me when I was little. But they love it because it's kind of this old-fashioned, retro, hipster type of aspect that they really gravitate towards. But again, it's primarily If you're going after teens and tweens, that's who you want to be going after. That's where you want to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't add it in because it's just another layer of complexity. All right, so now we're going to go through Facebook in a lot more detail. Why do you need it, and what do you need to know to make it effective for you, for Give Grande, New Mexico, as well as beyond? So over 1 billion people use Facebook to connect. So the potential to expand your reach is exponential. The other thing that's nice about it is you can be really specific about, I just want to target people in New Mexico. There are 35% of the New Mexico population has a Facebook account. That's a pretty big number. It's 725,000 people. That's a lot. So that's an opportunity for you to be reaching out and touching those people and saying, what?
I'm sorry, what was that figure again?
725,000 people have Facebook accounts in New Mexico. It's a great way to build awareness about your mission. Promote a mobile app if you have one that's probably a little more sophisticated than most people, and get the word out on the good stuff that you're doing. So again, in the old, previously you had to do a press release and it would go through a review cycle and it would get put out and hopefully it'd get picked up. You don't have to do any of that anymore. This is instantaneous. So it's a great way to connect with people all the time. The other thing to remember about Facebook is this is not you standing on a soapbox with a bullhorn. You're not shouting out your organization's, information in hopes that someone will listen. It's essentially a telephone. Every update that you put in, you're hoping you connect with one person and that person shares it or comments on it. Likes are nice. You have to have likes to get certain analytics, and you want to make sure you have a certain following. So you want people to like your organization's page. But when it comes to your individual updates, what you're going for is shares and comments. When I post something, an update, and the people who like my page see it, the circle of influence is about this big. If someone likes it, it gets a little bit bigger. If someone shares it, it goes to everyone that's following them. And everyone who's following them, if they share or comment, you start looking at how quickly this can expand and really start optimizing your reach. Any questions on that? Yeah.
I'm just having problems finding my. I'm the administrator for it, but I'm trying to log in at the Santa Fe Habitat Facebook. No, it doesn't look like. Do you want us to do that now?
Yeah, if you can, but you'll probably have to log in as yourself if you're an administrator of the page. So do that first, and then we'll be able to look at your page and make sure it's set up correctly.
I can't see where to log in. I mean, can you just look at this?
Yeah, no, Aaron will take care of it.
So I'll look to the Santa Fe Habitat Facebook.
All right, so move on to what the Facebook page will do for you. So we talked about SEO earlier in the presentation. What you'll see sometimes is that an organization's Facebook page comes up before their actual website. That's not a problem. That's actually a good thing. But it just means that they are paying more attention to their Facebook page than they are to their website. Again, not a bad thing, as long as you're getting that placement and that ranking. The reason that is because one of the things that Google takes into account in its magical little algorithm of how to figure out who gets to the top of the ranking system is based on how frequently you change your content. Facebook, that's a given, right? You're constantly putting things up there. Not so much on your website. This is why blogs are important, because if you can have a blog on your Facebook or on your organization's homepage, that's what Google will recognize that as fresh content. And that's important because they look for that. You're connected. So this allows you, again, to have one-on-one conversations with current donors, future donors, volunteers, people who will take advantage of your services, people who want to help, your friends, your family, everybody who can possibly be involved. It's very timely. You can get information out there. If you get a new donor, if you have a new activity, you can get the information out there quickly. And it's insightful. What's nice about Facebook and Google and all these other kinds of things is, even though it's annoying that they are taking all this information and making it more difficult, they give you great insight into who is it that's on your site, what are they doing on that site, how are they're interacting with you. So what you'll see in Facebook, if you have over 30 likes, you'll get this little insights box on there. What it tells you is what are people doing, and most importantly, which updates are getting the most traction. So you'll be able to see in one snapshot, this particular update got 2 shares. This one got 152. Which one are you going to do more of, right? The one that gets 152. So your analytics can tell you real time what it is that you should be doing more of and what you should be doing less of. We were looking at one yesterday, and surprise, surprise, this one was about a birthing center, and all the pictures of the little babies were the ones that got shared the most. Maximize it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Find out what those things are that people are responding to on your pages and utilize it. Maximize it. All right, so now we're ready. So, as you embark into the social media world and really have a mission around Give Grande New Mexico, any kind of, event that you're doing, the most important thing to do first is figure out what are your organization's goals around online marketing. Not for the goal, the overall organization. What are you trying to do with your promotions? It's probably donations. That's fine. Make that really clear. But it may be you also want to get the word out to people who could utilize your services. You also probably want more volunteers. So there's a whole bunch of things that you want to do. So you want to be really clear. These are our goals. This is what we want to do with our website, with our Facebook, with any other social media platform. Once that's done, do you have a communication calendar to support those goals? I'm a big fan of communication calendars because it's well and good to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it well. And then a month later, life has happened. Or as my mother would say, you've slept since then. So it becomes very difficult to stay focused and stay on target. If you have a calendar that says, here are the big milestones of communication points that I want to hit over the next 6 months, it's much easier for you to do that and build up to it. One of our nonprofits is very involved in AIDS research. World AIDS Day is like the Super Bowl of our marketing for them. Everything around the communication calendar centers on that particular day. We're trying to constantly drive and make sure that every year we get more and more people going to the site, using it as a resource. You probably have something similar. There's probably 1 or 2 days out of the year when you have really monumental aspects of your organization. Those become your critical milestones. And then fill in the stuff in between. Maybe you have a new executive director that's coming on board, or whatever it is. You can fill in those gaps, but making sure you have a communication calendar keeps you on point and keeps you on focus. Do you have a plan to manage social media without being overwhelmed? I know numerous organizations who have gone and taken an afternoon and set up every social media platform they could find. And then they did nothing. And it's almost worse to have an account on Instagram and have nothing in it. Or your last Facebook post was 2011. Really doesn't look good. So be really specific. Like I said, Facebook is at the core. That's the one you want to focus on and make sure you're doing well. If you have the time and the energy, add another one. I would recommend Google+. Look at your time and see how many of these you think you can effectively manage every day. And that's when you know when to stop. This is what I can do. I have a routine. I go into the office, I grab my coffee, and the first half an hour is all about social media. I check who's responded to our posts. I schedule posts for us. I look at, news articles. It's 30 minutes. What I can get done in 30 minutes is just right. Any more than that, and it's going to be a waste of time that I can't afford to do. You're probably the same. You've got a million things you're working on. Try to figure out what is that time block and when can you do it, and do it every day. That's the best way to get used to this, get comfortable with it. You'll actually find that you really start to like it, because you'll see how people are responding. You'll see that communication start to happen. Yeah.
Can you touch on the scheduling systems?
Yes.
That there are?
So there's a couple of, if you have multiple social media platforms that you're managing, there are a couple of software programs or tools that will allow you to manage them all at once from one console. So you don't have to go into Facebook and then into Twitter and then into LinkedIn. You can do it through Hootsuite is one, Hootsuite.
Could you spell that again? Could you spell that again?
Hootsuite. You'll know you're at the right place because it's got the cutest icon. It's this little owly, big eyes.
And what is that again? That's
Hootsuite it's a social media management tool, essentially. So you set up accounts for all of your social media platforms in Hootsuite, and it allows you to schedule things for when the most eyeballs are on Facebook or on Twitter. It actually has an auto schedule, which is really, really convenient. You load a bunch of things up, you say auto schedule, and they go out all day long. This is why I can do it in a half an hour first thing in the morning, as opposed to having to do it all day long. So try to make it at least a little, the topic can be the same, the image can be the same. Just try to make the way that you present it slightly different on each platform.
Can you make it totally different?
Yeah.
And schedule it?
Yes. Yeah, it allows you to schedule by platform, and then you can do the auto schedule, or you can schedule an actual time. So if you have something that you want specifically to go out at 4 o'clock, you can do that. It's very convenient. It's just, Google, good or bad, is constantly changing the rules of the game because people try to game the system. A couple months ago, it was all about backlinks. If you had backlinks to your site, Google recognized that and said, oh, there must be valuable content here. We'll put you up in the search rankings. Then they realized people were paying organizations to put false backlinks onto their pages. And Google said, no, you can't do that. So now you get penalized if the backlinks are aren't of a certain caliber. They can actually tell.
Can you define backlinks?
Yes.
Sorry.
So a backlink is when somebody takes posts on their page and links to your page.
Okay.
Right? So they're putting a URL in there, like a blog or something, and saying, oh, for more information on that, go here. And they're linking back to your site. That's a backlink. In concept, it means that you have valuable content. But people were gaming the system, so Google got smart and said, all right, fine, we're going to penalize you if you don't have the certain caliber of backlinks. The other thing that they did was Google was really into keywords. So a lot of people have heard about that, and they would do what's called keyword stuffing. So they'd take a critical word and stuff it as many places as they could on their website, right? And Google said, oh, they've used that word 100 times. That must be really, really valuable. Now Google looks at it and goes, nope, I don't think so. Now Google figures it out based on the way you would ask your iPhone a question. Where can I find support as a teen mother? I can see a teen putting that in there. How the content on your site answers that question, that is how Google is figuring out how to serve you up on those rankings. So it's far more difficult. But if you're doing what you should be doing, instead of trying to game Google, Google will reward you. So this is the thing I like about Google. Most of the time, as Erin will attest to, I am raving about how much I hate Google. But that is the one good thing that they are doing, is they are making the internet, a fair place to be, so that you can't pay or do anything to game the system. It's really about who you are and your content, and is it good content, quality content, targeted content, then you're going to get rewarded for it. So, yeah.
If you're going to answer this later, that's fine, but we have over 4,000
Likes?
constant contacts. We send out a monthly. Is there a way to upload those emails to the Facebook?
No. Nope. The thing about Facebook is those people have to choose to like your page. Now, what you can do in your newsletters is, please like us on Facebook. These are the reasons
we're starting to
That's
do.
the way you can do it, but you can't automatically get somebody into Facebook unless they want to. Which is a good thing, because one of the things I didn't mention in LinkedIn is any of you who have LinkedIn accounts, you probably notice that you're getting random emails from people that you probably haven't talked to in years. When you set up your LinkedIn account, you click something that said, please search my contacts, so that you could find everybody who was on LinkedIn, right? Unfortunately, in the fine print, what LinkedIn did with that is said, on your behalf, we will send messages to everybody in your inbox. and invite them to like you or be your, connect on LinkedIn. And the only way I figured out that they were doing it automatically is because my stepfather, I joke that he is the anti-social network. This man could care less about anything social media wise or anything. I got an invite from him on LinkedIn, and I went, do you even have a LinkedIn account? And he's like, yeah, I clicked something and it set up an account. So, yeah, so be careful of those. If they're annoying, just delete the emails. They will eventually stop because LinkedIn will be able to tell that you're not clicking on them. So, just a side note. All right. So, we're going to go into step 1 of 12 to set up your page. So, is everybody in your websites or at least in Facebook so you can kind of follow along at home? All right, good. So, this is the step. So, you go to facebook.com/pages/create.
And I would write that link down because in your handouts, I put a much longer link, which will get you there, but this is better. So write that one down.
This is the abbreviated, shortened
that's
version.
To create a page if we don't have one. Oh.
And also you possibly set it up incorrectly, which we'll go through.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't hurt just to write it down.
Yeah, because the important thing about this step is this is usually where everybody messes up, including myself when I set this up for a business once. You are not a local business. You are not a cause or community. You are a company, organization, or
Can you
institution.
go back to that link?
Do we need to go to that link right now, or are we
You don't
okay
have to.
with-
This
Yeah,
is
you're-
only
yeah.
if you don't have a Facebook.
Yeah, if you don't have a page, or if you haven't created one for your organization,
Alright.
or if you're going to have to set up a new one because the other one
Alright.
was set up incorrectly,
Can I ask, how do
Yeah.
we see how this, because this was set up by somebody else. And
we'll
then
be
I'm
able to show you. We'll go into the admin settings and we'll be able to see if it was set up correctly. So, like I said, so you want to click this because this is the only option that will give you I am a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
And this is important because it structures the way your Facebook is. It also is how people will look and verify that you are a nonprofit. Did you set it up correctly? Now it seems strange, but there are people who will look for this. So you want to make sure you're being very clear that that is who we are. That's who this Facebook page is associated with. And like I said, for those of you who have already set it up, we'll go in and we'll make sure that it's set up correctly. And if it's not, we'll show you how to either delete the account or try to modify it and see. You can't actually change accounts, especially if you set up your organization as a person. So if you're getting friends instead of likes for your organization's page, you are set up as a person. There's no way to transfer that. So we'll have to start from scratch, but I think most of you look like you'll get this where you put in, thing to note here is make sure you put in the full name of your organization, the legal name of your organization. Reason being is there's a lot of overlap, you'll see, with nonprofit organizations and just organizations in general. You want to be really specific here so that you can say legally, this is our name in case anybody else has it. Because Facebook will allow you to change things up a little bit, but you have to make sure it's your legal name. There was one yesterday where they had abbreviated NM for New Mexico. That's fine. That shouldn't be a problem. My recommendation is to spell it out because it helps you from an SEO perspective, but
It also helps you to be consistent in your online branding.
Exactly.
So whatever name you have on your organization's website and your other social media platforms, you'll want the same on Facebook, just
Yeah.
so people can find you and know that they're in the right place.
exactly. Which is a great segue into your description. So this is the only time I will tell you that you should have duplicate content. You should write a description for your organization that you use on every social media platform, every listing, your Give Grande New Mexico listing. That should be your description. And this should be consistent everywhere you are.
Are we able to change that in our
Yes.
profile?
Yep. And you want to make sure you have your website. And you don't necessarily have to send them to the homepage. We recommend it. But if, for example, you have something that you really want people to go to, say a gallery of images, that's fine. You can put that in there. But most of the time you're going to put your homepage.
In the short description, is that what it is?
Yeah.
So, Santa Fe Habitat has a retail, has the
Mhm.
restore. And we recently, I didn't do it, but the new manager did a Facebook for the restore. Now, I think,
Separate?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I think he put in for category, you know,
Local business.
yeah. So we probably did that incorrectly. Because if people are trying to find building supplies or furnishings and retail store thing, I mean that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
So it may
wondering
not
now.
be the worst thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time you want to keep it all, contained so that people know it's part of your organization. And there's ways to do subheadings like groups and different things underneath it, so you could set it up that way.
Uh-huh.
If it's already set up, there's ways to link the two, so
Okay.
we can look at that. But ideally, you want to keep everything under one umbrella, and again, have those two admins so that things don't go spiraling off. This is what we tend to, find is people you search your organization and four listings come up. It's because somebody randomly set up a Facebook page for somebody long time ago. You can delete those so that it's very clear. But you just, you want to try to keep everything as clear and concise and kind of coordinated as possible. All right, everybody clear on the description? Okay. So this is where we put it in. Then you're going to have to answer some questions. Are you a real organization? Yes. And are you the official representation of your organization? Yes. Those are two important pieces. So this is where most people just go, skip. I'll come back to it. Don't. Your profile picture is what gets associated with every update you have. So you want to make sure that it's consistent and that it's engaging. If you have a logo, that's the best thing to use, unless your logo is all words. Because when you get this small on an iPhone, you can't tell what it is. You want something that's going to spark people's interest and help them recognize, oh, I know them. I like their posts. I want to read that. I think I mentioned that the podiatry firm that I worked for, there's nothing cool, sexy, or fun about feet. So doing feet on social media was incredibly challenging.
I don't know, there's people that have.
There's a lot of people there are. Those aren't exactly the people we want to target, though, right? You want patients, not, anyway.
Goes away.
Yeah. So what I wanted to make sure is that we, as people were finding that we didn't have just kind of weird stuff and nasty stuff about feet, that they could follow us. So we had this bright, hot pink foot. And there was a woman in our class yesterday, or I think Monday, she's like, I remember that foot. Right? It sparks something in your head. That's what you want with your logo. That's what you want your profile picture to do. It should have something to do with your organization, but most importantly, it should grab somebody's attention right away.
And don't recreate a logo just for Facebook.
No.
Make sure it's your official logo.
Yeah, you want to be as consistent with your branding as possible. And so if people recognize a certain, aspect of your logo, that's what you should use here. So this is a good example. It's got the tree and it's got bright, kind of pink lettering. This is something that's going to grab people's attention. The other thing about this is make sure that it's high res, because you never, a high resolution version of your logo, don't kind of jerry rig something you took your, with your iPhone and put it up there. Because once it starts to pixelate, especially on a big screen like the ones you are looking at, it really doesn't look very good. It doesn't look professional. So it's all part of that good branding you want to be doing. So click to add favorites. This is an option that you can do. We recommend it just because it makes it easier for you to be able to find your page if you're an admin. So you can click add to favorites, and it'll put it on the left-hand bar of your personal Facebook page so that you can go in there. Now, the thing to note about this is if you are the admin of your organization's page, you can toggle back and forth between who you are posting as. It's up at the top, and it'll say you are posting as fostering fruitful futures. We got to change that. I can't say it. From, or you're posting as Demi Malnar. Make sure that you are posting as the right person when you're putting stuff in there. It's really clean in Hootsuite or any kind of those tools that you set up. But if you're doing it as an individual and you're going in there to post something, I have done numerous times where I've posted as myself and then not figured it out, especially with the podiatry firm. I didn't want people knowing it was me. So you have to go back in there and you have to dairy out stuff. You can delete it, which is the good thing, but it doesn't mean people haven't seen it. Right? So you want to be really clear on who you're posting as when you go in.
Can you backtrack when you like something in the wrong place?
Yes. Yeah, you can unlike. Yeah, so you go to the same place. It doesn't do anything. It just takes the like away. It's yeah, there is no thumbs down in Facebook. I know that sometimes it's really tempting. You're like, oh, why don't they have something like that? But they don't. It's only you can only be supportive and positive. So that's where it ends up in your Facebook pages on the left hand side. Love Facebook. The next thing it's going to ask is, do you want to spend money with us? Of course, no. The only time that I recommend that people spend money on Facebook ads is if you're trying to get the word out quickly and you're trying to drum up support for something. So now is a good time with Give Grande New Mexico. You may want to think about this. You can do $5 a day. That doesn't have to be expensive. And so there's a couple different ways you do ads. One is to get more likes. So you can tell it, I only want to target people in Santa Fe, or I only want people, in northern New Mexico, or just Albuquerque, or wherever it may be. And then you can say, I want likes. I want you to, promote to those people that make the most sense for me and get them to like my page. So that's one source of advertising. The other is you can do promoted posts. So if you have one of those pictures that you've realized from your insights does really well, promote the post and it'll send it out to not only the people in your organization or that are following you or liking you, it'll also send it out to people who are similar to those people and people that are in their circles. So it does what's called a promoted post. And it's noted. I mean, people know that you've paid for it. But it's a good way to expand, especially if you're trying to get more likes or you're trying to get the word out on something specific. All right, you're almost there. So the last thing, and again, this is something that most people just go, I'll do it later, or they slap a picture up there, and then it's stuck there forever. This is your cover photo. Make sure you pick something that complements your profile picture. Thank you. So if you have, most impactful, I think, for most nonprofits are pictures of who it is you're trying to help, getting help. In some kind of setting where people are, supporting each other, they're helping the horses that are, part of yesterday we had the llama rescue guy. I was like, perfect. Who doesn't like llamas, right? Throw some pictures of llamas up there. Anything that's going to grab people's attention and reinforce who you are as an organization is important to do this. Now, one thing to note, you probably shouldn't change your profile picture. Once you have a logo that people recognize, I recommend as an organization that you keep it that way. For Synergy, we have a big X, and we're always going to keep it that way. Our cover photo, however, changes all the time because we have, events like this. We might want to take a picture and say, look at all the people who came to, our training today. Or we may have a fabulous new website that we've just thrown up. So this cover photo you can change all the time, and you should be. Take advantage of it. It's like a big billboard that you can throw up there. But again, on the profile picture, we recommend that you keep that the same always, because especially if you have something that's very eye-catching, that's going to help with your brand. And this is as an admin. So once you've set up your organization, we've talked a lot about the admin aspects of it. This is your admin panel. So when you go into your organization's page as an admin, this is what's up at the top. So this just gives you a quick snapshot. So this is a good way in that half an hour that you've set aside for every morning to go, through things. Go to this notifications, because it'll tell you, here's everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. This is where you'll see which posts got the most traction. You'll see things like, what was your reach? And if the reach was 152, then you know that you had more eyeballs on that particular post than the one that had a reach of 4, right? This gives you some insights into what things are working and what you should be using. This is the promote your page. Again, Facebook shamelessly asking for your advertising dollars. And then the insights section down at the bottom, this also tells you who are any of the new people that have liked your page. What are they doing on the page, and what are the statistics of what those people are doing. Messages, any new messages that have come in. Again, this is really important because, again, you're trying to have that two-way conversation with someone or a couple of people around an update. That's where you're going to do it, is in those messages. And last but not least, it's got your invite friends. I caution you to use this, carefully when you're inviting your friends, because this is pulling from your personal Facebook page. Just be careful, because you want to keep that, somewhat separate. Your friends and your organization. Use it selectively. Don't just randomly invite everybody who's ever liked you or friended you on Facebook. All right, any questions on that?
Is that admin panel where we might be able to change that
Yes.
cover photo?
Yeah, you should actually be able to just change it on the page.
Yeah, it's just a. So
But
where
you
your
do-
cover photo is right now. You can hover over it and
It'll say change cover.
Is that my? Yes,
Yeah,
it
so
is.
just
Okay.
scroll
Yeah.
down a little.
And you won't get that if you're not an admin. That's the only tricky thing. So, any other questions?
Use these arrows. Is that how?
That looks where on your mouse there's like a little tiny button on top that you can roll over.
We'll go through that when we
We'll do it
change.
later,
Yeah,
yeah.
when we look at your setup. So now what I want to do is give you some examples of nonprofits and what Facebook or what social media platforms we recommend depending on who you're targeting. So for nonprofit number 1, this is similar to the one that I'm involved in. We're targeting teens. We have a really strong website with lots of visuals, lots of videos. We have lots of events, and we're looking for more volunteers. So what we use is Facebook, Google Plus, and Pinterest. We also use Instagram and Tumblr because of the teen aspect. So those are the 5 that I would recommend for someone who is, similar to that, where you have lots of visuals, and depending on the target audience, you want to have that youth aspect to it. Nonprofit number 2 uses Facebook and LinkedIn. These are people who are appealing to donors. Again, remember, people are looking to verify who is involved in your organization through LinkedIn. So if you're going after donors, especially big dollar donors, you want to make sure that this is set up correctly. It doesn't take a lot of time once it's set up, but do make sure that it's set up properly the first time, and that you have that description, you have your profile picture, and it's set up as an organization. And again, if you have management who are figureheads or spokespeople or people that you're putting out in the community as the kind of face of your organization, make sure that they're on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Question about Instagram again.
Yeah.
For organizations, is it linked to a personal account
Yeah.
like Facebook? It is.
Yeah, almost all of them require you to have a personal account
Okay.
because they want to make sure that there's a person who can be held
Right,
accountable.
right.
That's the main reason that they do it. It also is nice because then it allows you to have multiple admins. So you have to, have accounts. So the last is a nonprofit that should use Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you are involved in lots of legislation, you have lots of news releases and press releases and things that you are constantly trying to get information out to the community, that's the ideal combination for you. Because you'll be able to take videos and post them on YouTube. You'll be able to promote them through Twitter. You'll put them on your Facebook pages. But again, that's a really specific type of nonprofit. For most, Facebook, maybe Google Plus. That's where I recommend that you start. And some of these take a little bit more time, some of them don't. But that's really the core, and making sure you get comfortable with that before you start taking on more and more social media platforms. Any questions on that? All right. So that's it. At this point, thank you all very much. We really appreciate you being involved in Give Grande New Mexico and giving us a chance to teach you a little bit about social media. We'll be around for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. If you have questions and you want us to look at your Facebook and how it's been set up to make sure it's up right, we're happy to do that. If you get back to your office in a week and you go, what was that thing that she said? Feel free to email me or call me. I'm happy. I feel really strongly that nonprofits that take advantage of what social media has to offer can be incredibly successful. Especially, given we were talking earlier about it. There are so many nonprofits that are going after similar types of things. This is a way to cut through that noise and kind of get people to be on the bandwagon with you. It's a great opportunity. So I want to help you be as successful as possible, and hopefully you'll go back and you'll feel energized and excited and inspired. And then in a month you'll be like, why did I do this? But it'll be well worth it. So Thank you very much.